good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you guys are in the world. Hey, let us know where you are. We're tuning in already with Jared, who's eating a tuna sandwich on a lovely Chicago day. And we've got Stephen is having breakfast. What else are you guys eating out there? Anyway, send some of it our way. You can, by the magic of teleportation, you could send us a bacon tuna sandwich. One day we're going to do that just like out of Star Trek, right? We'll have our little transporter button and you guys can transport all sorts of things to us. But hey, we're going to have a special show today on how to be inspired or inspiration. We're going to talk about that with our friend Bob in a minute. But okay, let's see who else is showing up here. Kevin Barrett. Hey, Kevin, didn't we just talk recently? It's cool. I had a talk with a bunch of you guys. I really loved that. We were on the phone. And I get to ask you questions. You get to answer my questions. I'm interviewing you. Pretty cool. Rainy and humid in Trinidad. I'm not surprised about that. And Joaquin in Portugal. I really want to go there. And it's going to happen. Jose just emailed me in Romania. Cornell in Romania. We got you guys, I love it, all over the friggin' world. This is awesome. Okay, well, and Bangalore, okay. So, hey, let's get this officially started. You know what? I'm Marc Silber. I'm an author here in Carmel, California, and I got to let you know that today's episode is... Okay, we're going to do that again. I'm going to start all over. Get my screens together. Okay. Thank you guys for being patient behind the scenes. You get to see me mess up. Let's try that again. I'm Marc Silber. I'm a photographer and author in Carmel, California. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Bay Photo Lab. Listen, you got to make prints. You got to put stuff on your wall. You got to make books. Get it off your computer. You know, that's our constant message around here. And Bay Photo Lab has been doing that for years. I've been working with them for over a decade. They give you great customer service. They give you whatever you want, whether it's a book, a coffee cup, or a calendar. We make calendars every year with these guys. Cards. They will make it for you, and they're going to give you a 25% discount for being a new customer. So go over and get something made at Bay Photo today, okay? Well, our guest is none other than the 5-time Travel Photographer of the Year Award, National Geographic photographer, amazing teacher, incredible all-around guy. I mean, come on. Bob Holmes. Bob? You have a story there. You know, those pub brawls of yours, I'm just going to tell you right now, maybe you should rethink how you approach people in the pub.
Well, you really have to sort these guys out,
I know somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah, someone's got to do it, yeah. And
Well,
happy birthday, Marc. It's
well,
Marc's
uh,
39th birthday today.
39 feels pretty good, I got to tell
He
you.
looks pretty sad for his age.
Hey, come on. Give me a break. I aged a little too prematurely at 39, but I'm going to try to just halt right here and leave it at this for the next 30 or 40 years.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be calling anybody else out on their looks this morning. But I'm just saying, I'm not, come on. Who am I?
Well, this happened yesterday. Every day I do a 3 to 4 mile sort of hike, and I try and go as fast as I can. And I always try to beat my previous day, but I guess there becomes a threshold where beating your previous day isn't a good idea.
There's a certain
And,
point, maybe you got to slow it down.
yeah, yesterday I passed that threshold, and there's a hill I go up and down, and the third time I went up and down it, I came down, was going on, it was bizarre. I was going on a completely flat section, and my my legs gave out, I guess. I don't
Ouch.
know. I don't really know what happened, but I saw a post, a metal post, which I tried to grab to stop falling over, and somehow I connected with it, hit my head on it, and thought really nothing much of it, except there was, with scalp wounds, there's blood everywhere,
Ugh.
and I had Kleenex in my pocket and mopped up the blood, and I thought, well, I'll just go home, have a shower, and I'll be fine.
Call it a
Then I
day.
passed someone else on the trail after about a quarter of a mile, and they said, "Oh, are you okay? Is everything all right?" I said, "Yeah, I've just hit my head. I'm fine." And I got back to my car, and there was a gaping wound in my head, 2 inches long, and my
Oh.
face was covered in blood, and blood all down my shirt. It was like something out of a horror movie. And
Oh.
I'd injured my hand as well. When I'd gone down, I scraped all the skin off the back of my hand, and I'd have 14 stitches. I drove straight to the emergency room. I had 14
And
stitches.
you showed up
Yeah,
for our show anyway. The show must
what
go on,
never
right?
do. The show must go on. The show must go on, Mark. And that's part of the lesson today.
Yeah.
Never give up.
Never give
It's
up. Absolutely. I'm going to
yeah.
start off with just, I want to read this definition of inspire.
Stupid stupidity.
Bob, that's quite a story. I think we should rework it though. I think you were in the line of getting a photograph and someone came out and beat you with a stick, but you got it anyway. And
Yeah, yeah. That's
that's
that's a true story, but it sounds as though I'm exaggerating.
I know it doesn't sound. Anyway, listen to this.
Yeah.
To inspire means to fill someone with the urge or ability to do or feel something, especially something creative. Now, the origin of it, I think, is really interesting. It comes from Latin, inspirare, breathe or blow into, from into, and spare, breathe. When you inspire someone, it's like you're breathing into them. The word originally was used as a divine or supernatural being in the sense of impart a truth or idea to someone. Well, you're going to be our supernatural being this morning, Bob. So let's talk about how you get inspired. Because listen, we wake up every morning, something's got to ring our bell, or else maybe we're not going to get out there and grab our camera or do whatever we got to do. So, what inspires you?
Well, I guess, to start with, I think the difference between me and a hobbyist photographer is that I have to produce.
Yeah,
If I had a shoot today, I'd go out and do it. I wouldn't have any choice. I wouldn't let 14 stitches
you
get
wouldn't
in
let
the way.
sticks and stones and
14
things that
stitches
jump
in
out at
black
you.
eye. Yeah, and the sad thing about this is it's completely ruined my modeling career. So,
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
just have to stick with
maybe you
photography.
could be modeling. Hey, look, the Band Aid company or something. Rite
Yes.
Aid.
The reality, seriously, the reality is that as a professional, you have to get out and shoot almost however you feel,
Yeah.
unless you can't get out of bed. But however you feel, whatever sort of mood you're in, if you've had a fight with your wife or whatever, you still have to get out and produce. And part of that, you fall back on tricks, but to produce well, you have to be inspired.
Yes.
And there are days when the muse has just completely abandoned you. She's gone,
She's gone.
disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that happens alarmingly frequently. As a non professional, of course, if you feel that, you just don't go out and shoot. And last week, I had lunch with two friends who've traveled with me. Both of them have traveled with me extensively on workshops. Both are very good photographers. And we had lunch together, appropriately socially distanced. Seriously, we were
Yeah.
on the back deck, sitting far apart. But one of them goes out regularly. They both live in Marin County, which has some great landscape opportunities. One goes out regularly onto a local mountain, Mount Tamalpais, and get some great photographs. The other one said he just can't get inspired and hasn't done anything since the start of COVID.
Wow.
And we talked about this and the incentive to get out and shoot. And his attitude was that if he couldn't travel, there was nothing he was really interested in shooting. And I pointed out that the travel is almost irrelevant.
It is.
Certainly the travel is a bonus that can energize you to some extent. As a travel photographer, that should be the reason why I shoot, but it isn't. I never think of myself as a travel photographer. I'm a photographer. If anything, I think of myself as a documentary photographer.
Mm-hmm.
I document locations and cultures, and that's what I continue to try and do. I also shoot landscapes. And so I suggested that he gets out and just goes out with a camera and goes into the sun local areas and try and slow down and see them realistically and intently. There are things everywhere to shoot. It's your frame of mind. You have to get yourself into that mindset.
Yes.
It's sometimes it's difficult. It's I work a lot. Oh, I just noticed I've got blood all over.
It's just an unending story, Bob.
I love reds. Reds,
yeah. It's a feng shui thing. You're supposed to have a spot of red in your environment.
Yes. Hang on, I better get a Kleenex.
Yeah. Well,
but it's really important to get out and force yourself to shoot. If you can, and it can be difficult, but really try.
Yeah.
Make an effort to get out there and make photographs. The way I get inspiration, if I'm really, I sometimes I don't do it necessarily looking for inspiration. I have quite a big library of photography books,
yes,
and other books and art books, and I can dip into that and open some of them and just get inspired looking at the photographs. It doesn't mean I'm going to go out and replicate those photographs. That couldn't be further from the objective of this. I don't want to copy other people's work. Although you're always influenced by other people's work, it just gets me excited about the possibilities of photography.
Exactly. Should we start looking at some of those points of inspiration for you?
It'll be looking at me this morning.
So
get me off the screen quickly.
We're going to move you off the screen. So let's bring up. I'll put you back on the screen. Wait a minute. Okay, sorry about that. Jared is going to bring up certain images. Who have we got here, Jared? What's the first one?
We've got Alex Webb up.
There's Alex.
First. I believe these are some of his Cuba ones. It looks like it's from the Suffering of Light crowd on the shore is what this one's called in Haiti.
The Suffering of Light.
Yeah.
The Suffering of Light.
That's such an interesting photo with the post right in front of the woman and her hand sticking out and the other guy pointing. Obviously, something's going on.
Alex's work is... Alex is one of my favorite photographers. His work is not easy. It's not a photograph you can look at. It's not a photograph you can look at initially and think, boy, that's a great photograph.
Yeah.
But the photographs that have a lot of light, a lot of persistence, I guess. The longer you look at them, the more you see. Like this photograph.
That's an amazing one.
You see now, I think is phenomenal.
That's phenomenal.
It looks initially as though it's a shadow of the two people on the wall, but it's not.
It's not.
The couple in silhouette under the arch, a completely separate couple that are mirroring the couple in the foreground.
Yeah.
And Alex's work is extremely complex. There's always a lot happening in it. And the way he works, I've had the pleasure of working with Alex a couple of times, 2 or 3 times. I've edited his work on book projects we've worked on together, We did a book called Planet Vegas, in which 10 photographers were invited to photograph Las Vegas.
Huh.
And Alex was one of the 10, as was I. And we edited each other's work. And Alex, the way he works is he finds a place that he recognizes has tremendous potential and then waits for those elements that make the photograph to come together.
Clearly, in this one, it's just amazing. So he put himself there, and it's amazing.
And he takes a lot of very ordinary photographs. You can go through hundreds of photographs that are very ordinary, and then everything comes together in it, and it makes it this incredible image. Maybe we can look at some more, Jared, of Alex's.
Yeah. Look at that,
and
the colors.
They often have a very surreal look to them.
Yeah. What is going on here? Is a kid with a bird head on or something? And
No, it's
a bird flying right in front of it. I kind of stopped it on this one because that is amazing timing.
Wait a minute. So, I see. The bird is actually right in front of the kid.
Yeah, just a chicken or something flying up.
Unbelievable.
It's probably a fighting cock. Actually, yeah. I think I'm not even sure. Oh, he's in Panama. Yeah, Alex works a lot in Central America because he loves the light.
Yeah.
And I should mention this book, The Suffering of Light, is an incredible book.
I love this one.
I recommend it to anyone. This is a classic Alex photograph, brilliantly seen. Just this little boy with his eye popping out of that box.
Let me ask you something, Bob.
This is probably his most well-known photograph. And again, lots happening here. The kid coming out behind.
Yeah.
The eyes on the...
Oh, yeah, there's that kid.
And so body parts, the legs of the baby, the woman's head on the ad, the topaz ad. It's just incredibly seen, and graphically it's amazing. And it's a photograph that you could put on your wall and look at for years and never get tired of it.
Yeah.
A lot of photographs are almost too simplistic. You look at them and initially think, oh, that's a great photograph, but they don't have any legs. They get old within a matter of hours sometimes. Alex's photographs just get stronger the more you see them. I'm never tired of this image. And in fact, that was that. Oh, you can't see it because I'm not on screen. But this is his book, The Suffering of Light. It was used.
I can bring you back up here, Bob. Let's see.
This is the cover image of the book.
Yeah, that is the book. Bob, I wanted to ask you. So, let's talk about your process of being inspired. So you're looking at Alex. Does something start to, like, if you are uninspired, you've lost the muse, it starts to kind of grease the gears a little bit and things start to roll? Do you get an idea? Do you think, wow, I know that process isn't always easy to just vocalize because it's a mental state you're in, but what happens?
Here's a shot that's incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah, these are all classic photographs of Alex's. I would love to be able to shoot like this, as would a lot of other photographers. Alex has tremendous patience with a brilliant eye, and more than anything, he's a very intelligent photographer, very thoughtful, and it shows in his work. How I get inspiration from this? I never try to. I shoot in a very similar way to Alex sometimes. I love photographs that leave you asking questions and not giving answers immediately, or not giving answers at all, but just continually leaving you asking questions about the image. And that is what gives the image long legs. It gives it a long life.
Totally.
Because you never get an answer. It's difficult to say how they inspire me visually. on a personal level, because I don't want to go out and recreate what he does.
Yeah.
It would be impossible anyway. But it just gets me excited about the medium. I think there are other photographers probably that get me more excited to go out and shoot personally. Cartier-Bresson, for example.
We're going to look at him.
I've got several books of Cartier-Bressons.
Yeah.
And most of his photographs get me excited to go out and shoot. And he works in a very similar way to Alex. He's always looking. They're both photographers. They're both documentary photographers. None of their photographs are set up. He just shoots what he sees, as I do. And I can relate very closely to that style of work, because I don't have the imagination to set photographs up. I could never be a studio photographer, although I've done 5 cookbooks, and that's in a way studio photography, but it's very different.
It's quite different, isn't it?
I'm working with a food stylist, and the creative part often comes from the stylist. I just look at the lighting and I guess overall composition, but it's not a lot of creativity. But most of my photography, particularly in the world of travel and documentary, the creativity comes in seeing, not in creating, not in putting elements together.
Yeah.
So I don't manipulate photographs to make the shot. As my favorite photographers, Alex, Cartier-Bresson, Sebastião Salgado, and one anomaly to that is Bill Brandt, who I knew quite well, and Bill Brandt set up a lot of shots, but his work is so visionary that it just blows me away.
Well, like in this one, you in terms of asking questions, the question I have is, what is this guy doing jumping up? What is, was that just purely serendipity? I mean, that would be my thought. It's just like, how amazing that he got that triangular, with the shadow and the guy jumping up. But what's he doing jumping up in the first place? Why is he doing that?
I know that he is jumping up. I think he might be jumping down.
Okay. Oh, jumping
I don't
down.
remember. Actually, I should know this.
That's interesting.
Because I read something that Alex wrote about this image, explaining what was happening. And if you give me a second, I can probably find out for you.
Okay. But that makes you really curious. But we'll, Jared, bring up Cartier-Bresson while Bob is looking. I want to bring my own, because he was probably not my number one inspiration as a photographer, especially when I went to art school. Yeah, this one here. So if you think about this, his whole thing is the decisive moment. He had to visualize before he pressed the shutter that he was standing in the right place, but he had to press the shutter in such a way that he anticipated the action before it happened. And then that was one of his brilliant things, because if he waited until he saw it, then pressed the shutter, that guy's foot would be in the pedal there.
Well, I guess one thing that is essential is that you have to have complete mastery of your equipment.
Yes. No
so that
doubt.
when this happens, you're ready. And Cartier-Bresson, of course, shot with Leicas.
Yes.
Which are super responsive.
Yeah.
I love my old Leicas. I guess the new Leicas, the new digital Leicas, they're pretty good now. I didn't used to like the feel of them. I used one of the first digital Leicas, and I just didn't like the way it was a fatter body.
Yeah,
the
heavier.
Were not quite right. The new ones are great, but they're also extremely expensive.
They are expensive, but Cartier-Bresson used that M2 with one lens, I believe, right, Bob? And then he turned his work over to his darkroom guy.
But he knew the camera.
He knew the camera.
Inside out.
Yeah.
So he knew that when he saw what he wanted, he could press the button and get the shot.
Yeah. And that, this is a perfect example of the decisive moment. this is different, obviously, because there isn't that action. But, look at how he's there capturing that time. This guy completely like a coal miner or whatever's going on here. He's just lounging.
Yeah, it's not one of his signature shots.
No, but it's still pretty amazing. He got this everyday life thing. This goes back to your point about travel, Bob. I mean, these could be in his many of them could be in his neighborhood in Paris, for instance.
Well, he did. Yeah, that's one of his classics.
Yeah, that's very classic. The
Great
peeping
shot.
guys.
Just the expressions on the faces,
Yeah.
the people themselves. Surprisingly, he was quite a prolific portraitist. He took a lot of portraits. You saw the one of the Currys earlier. And yes, this shot.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of portraiture, but it was always done very quickly. He never spent a lot of time. I saw a huge exhibit in Porto last year, in Portugal. There's a big exhibit just of his portraits, and it was an incredible exhibit. It was, very eye-opening.
Yeah.
Most of his portraits.
I remember you told us about that. Yeah. Big
Jose's in the comments.
prints, right?
He mentioned it too. He remembers it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah,
Big
it was
prints.
an amazing exhibit. And he took some great portraits that really captured, unlike portraitists that spend a lot of time trying to get, sort of the Anna Leibovitz school of portraiture.
Yes, very different.
Heavily manipulated.
Let's stop and look at this one. This image, through the broken. This was after Spanish Civil War, as I recall, 1933, right?
Yeah.
And so this stuff was all blown apart in the Spanish Civil War. And here are these kids, the one on crutches. It's obviously a part of that whole incident that happened. But he has that vantage point of getting that perfect arrangement of, he loved geometry. And there's, even in this picture, there's so much geometry going on. And how these kids were sort of evenly displayed across the scene is pretty amazing. Because if they're all clumped together, it wouldn't have popped the way it does.
Oh, no, it's very, looking at those details is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
You have to be preoccupied with detail, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. You wait till all those elements come together.
Exactly.
And this wasn't the only frame he took, obviously.
I know there's another frame of that's
probably
even more famous. I don't know if we have it in there, but looking through.
I don't think it's in here since this is just like a selection of his work.
Yeah. Bob, did you have the answer to that question about?
No, I've got a book in front of me.
Okay,
it's called On Street Photography and the Poetic Image, and I thought it was in here, but I'm damned if I can find it.
Well, we'll keep looking at these.
I'll research it, and it might be on his Instagram site. He might have posted it. Yeah, I can't find it now anyway. Yeah. But there's a good comment in this book. It says here, when I'm photographing people on the street, wherever it is, the first time I push the shutter, it's as if I'm asking a question. Can I take a picture? And the second time, can I take another picture? And then another.
Interesting question to ask yourself. Isn't that something?
Interesting. Yeah.
Interesting.
An interesting sequence of taking the photographs. You just work into the shot.
Yeah.
Like Cartier-Bresson shot. This Cartier-Bresson worked in a very similar way to Alex. He saw this very strong graphic with the shadows, but it's the kind of photograph that is graphically very interesting, but doesn't really have a lot of content.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting graphic.
Yeah.
He just waited for someone to come into the frame to give it this extra element that raises it above just a strong graphic photograph.
Yeah. Yeah, because a tourist photo might just be, go back to that one for a second, Jared. The tourist version of that photo would be, oh, that's a cool walkway, with the shadows and whatnot, but no person in it. But when you bring the people into it, it definitely changes it and elevates the photo, which is what we've talked about.
It'd be interesting that there's a little kid in the bottom.
Yeah, the blurry little kid.
You don't initially see in this shot.
And he's the one that said focus is bourgeois, and all this stressing over having everything perfectly sharply in focus or not blurred or whatever. And he was like, that's not how you capture a photograph. Life isn't like that.
A lot of I'm just looking through Alex's Instagram feed as well, see if I can find it. I'm determined to get the answer to this because
while you're looking, Marc, maybe you could answer this question.
Sure.
Or either of you. We got a good question in the comments. Somebody wants to know, how can someone train their eye to be in dynamic geometry to the point of shooting from the hip so that, you just see the geometry and it's there?
Well, that's something that is very important to address. I've talked about this before at some length. You have to train your eye. It doesn't, some of us, it's like musicians. There are some people that are born with this innate ability to create music, almost from birth.
Yeah,
you're going to get these 4-year-old prodigies that play beautiful violin or whatever. It's obviously something that's innate, that you're born with. And to some extent, I think the same thing applies to the visual arts. There are some people that can automatically create images that come together without having to think too deeply about it. And I think personally I've been fortunate to be one of those, because I've never really found it that difficult, although I have worked at educating my eye, I guess, and refining it. When I was in college, I went to University of London, and I took a fairly academic degree that included architecture, and it wasn't what I wanted to do. I had to do a lot of math and law and other stuff that I had no interest in whatsoever. So when it came to doing homework, I was in a residence with a bunch of other students, a lot of them from St. Martin's College of Art, which was one of the top art schools in the UK.
Yeah.
St. Martin's was a great art college. And I used to do the homework of one of the people from St. Martin's. He used to tell me what his homework was, and I would do it. It was usually involving graphics and arrangement of shapes, and I loved it. It was what I really reveled in doing. It was exactly what I wanted to be doing, but wasn't. And after I completed the course in London, I did a postgraduate course in planning, and again it involved city planning, and again it involved design.
Yeah.
And we had projects that I always excelled at in design, because I just loved the whole process, and it helped refine my own vision. Although I had an inborn ability to do it, I was able to refine it to a much higher level. And it also comes back to my interest in painting. Yeah. Probably we can pull up Howard Hodgkin, Jared.
There we go.
Now, Howard Hodgkin is one of my favorite painters. He was British. He died a couple of years ago. And his work, apart from his use of color, incredible use of color, and Hodgkin considered himself to be a realist painter, which is bizarre.
Interesting. That's, yeah.
Most of it couldn't be more abstract. But I just love his work. And again, it's work that it's not like the Impressionists where it's a beautiful photograph. The abstraction makes you able to look at it over a long period and still find new things.
Jared, can you pull up Indian Rain and enlarge that one? I mean, that's the one that probably seems the most, well, no, it isn't now that it's enlarged. I was going to say the most quote, realistic, but it really isn't at all.
None of his work is that realistic, but I just love it. And I think probably a better, he's helped me see color and how he used color. And I've got some of his prints at home. I collected his prints on a small scale. His paintings are in the millions now. They're unaffordable. His prints are still very expensive, but just affordable. And I've bought one or two of them, which I love and never tire of looking at them. I think a painter who's probably had a bigger impact on me was Franz Klein. If you can pull him up, Jared, Kline. Franz Klein's work is very, very graphic. Here we go. And it looks...
Oh, yes.
Franz Klein looks completely abstract as well, but it's not.
Bob, you know what we have to do here, because I know we've talked about this. One or more of these inspired you for the guy with the cape, I believe.
Yeah, the photograph behind me, on the wall behind me.
Yeah, let's look at that here. Let's pop that up here. Yeah, so...
Oh, you have it. Yeah.
Well, let's see. Let me see if I can get a wider angle of you here. Yeah, so this photograph right here, that was inspired by him, right? Somewhat?
I
Ish?
I assume it was.
Okay.
It's difficult to say.
I remember that from
because I've never gone out and thought, oh, that looks just like a Franz Klein painting or drawing, whatever. That's never happened. But I've always liked Klein and appreciated his work. And it's very often grounded in reality. He lived in Pennsylvania and he painted the area around his home.
I never would have guessed that.
There was a bridge there that he painted a lot. And there you can see, let's see if you, is that a better image of the, it's on the wall behind me now.
Yeah, that's good. And where was that, by the way, Bob? Was that in Peru or?
No, it's in Ecuador.
Ecuador.
It's in a little town. It's near Otavalo in Ecuador. Oh, you just...
Well, no one would ever look at Franz Klein and go, oh, Bob Holmes. Yeah. I mean, there wouldn't be that connection. But something in the shapes.
I didn't influence Franz Klein.
You didn't? Okay. You sure?
No, apparently not.
Yeah, well,
I think I should have.
I'm going to interview him and find out.
Maybe because he died.
Okay, well, that could be a problem.
Decades ago.
That would be a problem. But other than that, I think you might have. So, good.
This photograph on the wall, it's about shapes. It's about dark silhouettes in the way that Alex uses them, but mine's a little bit more simplistic and graphic.
Well, you've said you love the dark tonality that leaves you asking questions, and we've got it on several points there. The guy with the cape, the doorway on the left, and then the section on the right. There's a lot of that negative space or dark shapes.
But beyond that, it really, anyone that's been there would recognize that sort of scene.
Yeah.
There's a sense of place about it, which as a travel photographer, whatever a travel photographer may be, sense of place is absolutely critical.
That's true.
A lot of photography that's so-called travel photography in magazines doesn't have any sense of place. And without a sense of place, what is the point?
Who's our next one? Who's our next person that inspired you? By the way, I've got to remember to mention, you guys, we are going to give away a card from SanDisk at the end of this, so hang in there, and thanks for coming.
And be sure to talk in the chat. That's where I'm grabbing people from.
So our friend Salgado.
Oh, Jose's just commented that he was there. Yeah, it was Jose that took us to the exhibit. Jose Santos, who runs these incredible workshops in Portugal. We passed the building with this Cartier-Bresson exhibit, and the three of us went in to watch it. Andrea apologizes for not being here this morning. She's unbelievably busy. She spent a week of getting up at 4 a.m. to shoot vineyards, and it's not easy. Anyway, Salgado.
Yeah, here's a fantastic Salgado one. I don't know that I've actually seen this one before.
Phenomenal photographer. He's one of my favorites. All his photographs have incredible form to them, so that they're incredibly strong graphic images, but also have this incredible content. To me, they're the ultimate photographs. They have form and content, and I find them really inspiring. They really want me to go out and take photographs, probably more than any other photographer.
How can you not, when you see this photo, how can you not want to go out and take your own photos?
Oh, yeah. Well, most of it. I should say most of his work. He did a book recently called Genesis, which I personally was not impressed with. There was just too much stuff in it. It wasn't edited well. His wife edited it, and I thought it was just over the top. And there's a lot of less than great work in it. But when you see Workers, his book Workers is just incredible. And this is when I first came across Salgado in 1986. I used to work for a magazine in London called London Illustrated News. And the editor, who was a very close friend of mine and still is, in fact, I heard from him just a couple of days ago. He had just discovered Salgado himself. He was an ex-Magnum member, and he just found Salgado and showed me this portfolio of prints that Salgado had just sent to him for publication. And we were just absolutely blown away by this work. At that time, nobody had heard of him.
That was in 2007, Bob?
That was 1987, 1986.
Okay, because I was just looking at the date on that one.
Yeah.
Amazing work. Amazing work.
Yeah, absolutely incredible work. And, he just continued to do these very long projects and just immerse themselves in them. Unfortunately, it's the kind of work that is difficult to do and make any money. The way Salgado does it, he has a lot of very wealthy benefactors. And, he has dinner with them, raises money, and finances these long-term projects. He does sell the work for publication, obviously, but he sells prints at $10,000 a pop, which isn't pocket change.
Yeah, that's not bad.
He has these benefactors who are like the Medicis, I guess. They believe in supporting this incredible work.
That's a fantastic model. It's almost like your own Kickstarter, with your...
Yeah, it is. It's like a Kickstarter model, but of course, you have to have this incredible talent to be able to do that. But, coming back to what our theme is for today, Salgado is the inspiration that I go to if I really want to give myself a jump start and get out and photograph.
Good tip. Because we all need that. And, it's the other thing, Bob, what's interesting is you can find inspiration in other genres and other media, like music, for instance. I watched a documentary on the band, for those of you who might be too young to remember them. They were originally started off with Bob Dylan, and they created their own incredibly unique sound in the middle of the whole psychedelic era. They had this very Americana sound. And one of the things I find inspiring about them is that they where they drew their inspiration from was just their everyday life, and they all would switch around with their instruments. Very fascinating, multi-layered group of musicians. None of them had, only one of them actually had formal training. So they were all just kind of figuring it out as they went. But that can inspire your photography, music or other forms of art, sculpture,
Well, yeah,
right?
yeah, it's true. Yeah, I love music. I love all genres of music, really. Hip hop and
Do you
some of
really?
that.
Okay.
Still, I'm not
I'm going to put you on the
exactly
spot and
sure.
have you do a hip hop for
But
us.
I
Love
love
that.
jazz, and
Me too.
jazz is in a very sorry state because it's so difficult for jazz musicians. Are in the same position as most artists. They have a really hard time making a living.
Yeah.
I love all forms of music, really. Classical, rock, heavy metal. Some heavy metal I really like.
You're
Yeah, it
surprising
depends
me,
on the
Bob.
mood I'm in. But I don't find it inspires me visually. Um, the visual inspiration I get is from other visual mediums. So as much as I like music, uh, I don't find it really makes me want to get out and take photographs.
You know what I used to find, Bob, is I always played music in the dark room, and it was sort of became a soundtrack. So there was this sort of overlap between what I was doing in the dark room and whatever music I was playing at the time seemed to go almost like a soundtrack, because that's that whole process that we'd go through in the dark room, whether we're developing print or usually not so much with the negatives, because that's a pretty just plain mechanical process, but that excitement of seeing the image emerge in the developing tray. And there's that. Anyway, I just have these memories of certain number of albums that I would just play over and over again while I was going through that process. But it is interesting how inspiration can hit you from different points. Like watching a movie, well, obviously that's a photograph. That's 24 frames per second of photographs. And sometimes you just see an incredible scene or cinematography that you can't help but think about that in terms of how that can fit into your photographic sort of vocabulary, so to speak.
Yeah, I find movies, obviously, because movies are visual.
They're
A
visual,
visual.
yeah.
Yeah, I find movies can be inspiring.
Yeah. Well, listen, Bob, we're amazed here. It always amazes me how fast time goes by here. Why don't we catch a couple of questions? Jared, you want to pull up some questions?
So this one's not as much a question, but and I want to know if you're familiar with this person. Sandy mentioned the photographer Fan Ho. I think
Oh,
as somebody
really?
that
Fan
inspires
Ho.
them, and I went looking
I
at their
knew
stuff.
Fan.
It's really good. Did you know him?
I knew Fano when he came
I
to the
wonder.
No
States.
kidding. Why don't you
Let
pull
me
that up,
pull up
Jared?
some of his stuff.
Yeah, there we
It's
go. Oh,
really
look at that.
good. I'm really liking looking at his work.
What do you know about him, Bob?
Well, he came from Vietnam, uh, so escaped Vietnam, and struggled to make a living here. Sold his photographs on the streets, and street fairs.
Uh-huh.
Um, Very nice guy, and an incredible photographer. He did a lot of composite images, and it was great work. And I regret not collecting it.
What
But
what time period are we talking about?
well, I guess it's the 80s.
Okay.
Does it say, Jared? Does it say when he died?
He died in 2016.
Okay.
I know it's fairly recently. Yeah.
He was born in 31. It looks like he started kind of gaining winning awards and stuff in the late 50s, so 1956. And it says that he won over 280 awards from international exhibits and competitions worldwide for his photography, which,
Look at
I
that.
certainly understand why. He's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Oh, yeah, he's a great photographer. Was he from Vietnam? I may have got that wrong.
Chinese, it looks like.
Oh, he's Chinese. Yeah.
Born in
Yeah, he
Shanghai
was a
and
great
then
he was a great photographer.
grew up in Hong Kong, it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, just look at this. It's so good.
Yeah, that was one of his composites. And he did some in,
What frame? Okay, let's look at that. It almost looks like a composite. That must be a composite. No,
no, this
what,
is
it's. But look at
this
the.
is just there's just two boats passing.
It's like a 16:9 though. It's real interesting format.
Well, he cropped it.
Ah,
Yeah, it's cropped.
yeah. Okay, I see.
Yeah. Yeah,
We do have.
he wasn't above manipulating images.
Mm,
He wanted to show it as he saw it, which is fine. It's not something a lot of us do, but I very occasionally crop photographs if he makes a stronger shot. And sometimes I shoot with that idea in mind. And with modern cameras, with modern digital cameras, if you're shooting with a 45 megapixel camera, you can crop and
Yes.
barely lose any quality at all.
absolutely. Well, Bob,
We've got
we've covered a
one
lot of
quick
ground.
question.
Okay.
If we've got time.
We'll
Jared,
we'll take one
our
more.
friend from Chicagoland, he wanted to know about, because we've been looking at a lot of street photography, sort of photographers, but now we're in the days of COVID and social distancing, and he wondered how should we look at approaching topics like street photography, and going out there and taking photos in public. What does that kind of look like here in the future?
What do you think, Bob? That's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a tough one. I don't know what the answer to that is.
Yeah.
I guess it'd be an interesting exercise in documenting the times with people wearing face masks.
Yeah.
And hopefully you all are wearing face masks. I'm sure you think I should be wearing one now, but a full face mask. It's. I guess there's no reason not to go out in the streets and take photographs as long as you maintain distancing and protection against COVID, and look for interesting things happening.
Yeah.
Spend time and look for juxtapositions, look for interesting light. And one of the things about street photography, you can shoot any time of day. With a lot of photography, the golden light is always considered the best, but with street photography, it can be any time.
Absolutely.
In fact, midday, I love midday with harsh shadows. A lot of Alex Webb's work is shot in harsh sunlight. He loves that because it creates the kind of imagery that he's after. And I totally agree with that. I love those images. So I guess you can still go out, but be careful.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is a tough one because we all want to get rid of this plague as soon as we can.
Yeah. And we're living through it. It's like where this is going, we're going to have to see. So, but in the meantime,
it's tough. I've had 7 overseas assignments killed this year.
Yeah, I know it's a tough one.
Which is really, it's really unfortunate. And although those countries where I was going no longer have a serious COVID problem, they're not letting Americans in, which is understandable.
I know.
I don't blame them. Yeah, I don't blame them at all.
Exactly. Well, Bob, I want to thank you for inspiring us and showing us how to be inspired and pushing through, stiff upper lip and all that with your your recent adventures with the pole, whatever it was.
Pole, it was a pole, as a metal pole.
Ah, But anyway, thanks again, Bob. Always a pleasure. We will be catching up with you probably in a couple of
Pleasure
weeks.
to be here, and have a very happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. We're going off to Big Sur in a few minutes, actually, as soon as I end this thing.
Don't drink too much.
I'll try not to. Okay,
Drink a
Bob.
lot.
Thank you. So we've got a little business here to perform. We've got a giveaway, a SanDisk card. Our friends at SanDisk are going to give you guys a card. I'm not even sure which one it is, but it's probably going to be an SD card. And what do we have, Jared? Do we have some kind of like magical way of selecting somebody from our audience?
I do. It's randomnumbergenerator.com.
Whoa, is there
And
such a thing? How about that?
yeah, yeah, it's a whole website dedicated to just random numbers. So I've taken all the people from the chat and I assigned everybody a number, and we do have a winner. And our
Okay.
winner
Drum
is
roll, please.
Robert Hindman.
Oh,
From way earlier in the show. So if you're watching, please be sure to reach out to us.
Yeah, we need your
Definitely the
address.
best way for us to find you is if you join the AYP club.
Oh,
Then it's
yeah.
really easy for us to find you. So hopefully you're still watching. If you are, we're gonna try and get in touch with you and get you your prize.
Awesome. And thank you guys for the birthday wishes. And, I love my birthday. Who doesn't, right? So we're going to go out and have some fun, take some photos in Big Sur, go down the coast. Tomorrow going to San Francisco. I'm going to shoot a film there because we're going to, right by the Golden Gate Bridge, we're actually staying there. It's kind of an amazing spot. And I'll bring home some photos from there. There, Robert, you're there. Cool. Awesome. Make sure we need your contact info. You don't have to put it on the chat. Jared, what's the best way for him to get in touch with you? Just through AYP Club?
Yeah, just AYP
Okay.
Club will be the easiest way. So I'll put a link in that here in a second
Okay, cool.
to access it.
All right, so listen, you guys, I want to thank all of you who filled out our survey. It's very helpful. We've got a lot of great info. And this, by the way, today's topic was the number one area that people wanted to know more about, that they were having some issues with. That's why I decided to bring Bob on and talk about inspiration. It's not going to be the last time we talk about that subject, for sure. So remember, you guys, get out and get some prints made. Bay Photo Lab will help you with that. We've got a lot of interesting stuff coming up in the next few weeks. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet because I don't actually know, but I know what's kind of bubbling to the surface. And I want you guys to make sure you are staying inspired. Do these things that we're talking about. Look at books. Get out with your camera. Even if you get around your own house or apartment or wherever you are, that's, everyday life is what most of these photographs that we've seen are about. It's just about what's right there. You just got to do what Bob talked about, which is look, but really see. I mean, there's the process. It's not just looking, but it's seeing. And you see, you capture that moment, and you've got something there. Okay, well, listen, you guys, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe. Leave your comments in the video that's going to be out tomorrow. Like it, share it. Tell your friends about AYP, okay? And remember, say it along with me. One day we'll get a two-way communication thing where you guys can speak into the microphone. But remember to get out and capture your own images of life. Love you guys. Stay well, stay safe, and we'll see you real soon.